art is about taking something inside of you and expressing it in a way that helps you understand yourself and helps you understand the world around you. And in that way, people can see it or watch it and enjoy it and help them understand themselves. I think there's that greater good. I don't think craft necessarily does that. I think craft can sometimes be, the studio will give me a note and I'll say, okay, I can do that. That's what you want. I can do that. I don't think it's necessarily playing for the greater good. It's what they want and they're paying me.
You're listening to Screenwriters Need to Hear This with Michael Jamin.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. We're doing something unusual today. So Phil is back with me. And as you may know, every 3 or 4 weeks, I host a free webinar where I take one subject to kind of educate you on it. And at the end, if there's time, I answer questions because it's about an hour long. And so usually we answer a lot of questions, but we can't get to all of them. So we saved the questions that we can answer, and we didn't have time, and we're going to answer it here for you today on this podcast. Oh, and by the way, for people who don't know, the webinar is always free, but afterwards I also do like a VIP room for people who, if they want to pay a small fee, then they get to be in a smaller chat with me, and we talk. I try to answer their questions as best I can specifically. So if anyone's interested in that, you go to michaeljamin.com and I don't know where they would sign up for that. On michaeljamin.com/course probably.
For the VIP, it's /VIP.
Oh, /VIP. Okay.
We're fancy here, Michael. We use high-tech stuff like links, short links.
So there you go. But we're now all answered the other questions. Phil, hit me.
I was just going to say there are a lot of really good feedback, and I found that there are people who don't sign up for your course who also sign up for that VIP, and they ask some really interesting questions. And then after that, I think it kind of pushes them over the edge to feel like, okay, this is something I can do. And then they're a little bit more inclined to invest in themselves. Some really good questions out of this VIP. And this is based off of the August webinar. And that topic was the pep talk every screenwriter needs to hear, which is slightly different than Michael Jamin's known tone of just smashing your hopes and dreams on the rocks of reality. Which he's
I don't want to just do that. I want to make sure that people I want them to be grounded in reality. That's what I'm not trying to smash on those dreams, but I want to be realistic, because once you find out, if you know what the reality is, then now we can figure out how to get in. Once you know, there's a way around every problem. That's what I feel.
And that comes from, early on when we were talking about the marketing for this. How do we help you grow your audience? How do we do this? And you were like, I will not sell the dream. I will not be one of those guys who just promises the dream to make a buck. I can't do that. And I was like, okay, well, it's going to hurt your ability to make money. He's like, it's not about that. I just will not do it. And so you've leaned into this, sincere, radical honesty, I guess you could say. And I think overwhelmingly, almost immediately, people were like, wow, this sucks to hear, but I'm so glad you're saying it. Yeah. It just resets the expectations a little bit. And for me, having, learned from you and been to film school and worked in the industry now for almost 7 years, I still think about this. Like, hey, this is a script. Whenever I write a new script, I'm not going to sell this. That's okay.
It's a writing sample, right?
And it frees me up to just be whatever I want it to be, because I'm not hoping that my entire life is dedicated to this one story I'm writing.
I see good things coming your way, Phil, by the way.
I see good things coming my way as well.
Yeah, because you're putting the work in, and you obviously, it may be hard for you to see because you're in it, but the distance that you've traveled in only a few short years in Hollywood is pretty remarkable. So
I'm keenly aware of that, honestly. I'm humbled to be where I am. I'm humbled to host the podcast with you. I think I even pitched somebody else to co-host the podcast with you, and you're like, why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't I just have you?
Yeah.
But because I don't need to, or I don't want to assume to be the guy. I do think I bring a skill set to this podcast of asking the questions the listener wants to ask.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what I do. But yeah, I'm incredibly humbled. I think I've got some really interesting things on the horizon, and I've already had some great things this year as a direct result of you and the stuff you're putting out in your course, and the great feedback I'm getting from people in your course, by the way.
Yeah.
Super talented people in there, just giving me feedback and making me better.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Michael.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, structurally, we broke this up into a couple, and I've kind of found a pattern here. There's kind of craft questions. There are break-in questions. There are course questions, and then there are miscellaneous questions. So I take all the questions, kind of broke them down, and then I'm really focusing on things that you haven't said before, because there are a lot of questions we get that are repetitive questions. Should I move to LA? Should I move to LA? Should I, what about this? How do I get my script in the right hands? And you've addressed those tons and tons of times. So if you like this, go listen to all the other Q&As where we get questions from social media, we get questions from your course members, we get questions from the webinar. But starting with craft, because I think that's really what we're here to learn, is how to be professional writers. I'm going to mess up a bunch of names today. You ready for this?
Yeah, it's okay.
Shisui's Sharingan.
Right.
No clue. Is that right?
You said it perfectly, however.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
How do you win the battle against that blank screen when trying to create?
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem is you don't know what you're doing. I mean, listen, the blank page is always intimidating, even when you do know what you're doing. But if you are this locked up, it's because you just don't know what a story is, and you don't know. That's what the course teaches you: how to take an idea, identify if there's enough meat on that bone to turn it into an episode of television or a movie or whatever. Not every idea is worth turning into. It doesn't have enough there. So the course helps with that. I think all that, the writer's block that you're experiencing is because you don't know what you're doing. Of course, you're going to be blocked. Of course, you don't know what your characters are going to be doing. So, at least come to the free webinar. At least I can help you with that much. If you don't want to buy the course, the webinar will help a lot at michaeljamin.com/webinar. Yeah,
and all the other free resources you have, like the free story lesson on your website, michaeljamin.com/free. It's another great place to start.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. If you don't know where you're going to go, you get stuck. And for many of us, it's that, middle of Act 2, what's going on? What do I do now? How do I get my characters to this really bad thing that's going to happen, whatever it is? And that understanding the structure as you put it out, it's just so easy to grasp and understand. It's a no-brainer. Okay, I clearly know where I need to go and what needs to happen here from a strategic perspective, and then tactically I can lay in things to get me where I want in a surprising way.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Perfect. If I may, when you're rewriting, print that thing out and use a red pen, man.
Red pen. Yeah.
Michael's pro tip. Hamboyd. What is the best way to keep improving in screenwriting or storytelling?
Just keep writing. I would write your episode or your feature, put it aside, write another one. Put it aside, write another one. And you'll find that as opposed to just keep on working on the same piece, finish it and write a second one, then a third one. And you'll find that script number 5 is much better than script number 1 will ever be. It's you have to just let it go and continue doing something else. So that's my advice.
Awesome. Chelsea Steve. How in-depth do you prepare a beat sheet or treatment to pass to a co-writer? Is it important to be specific or broad out of respect for them?
Oh, well, I mean, you should be doing the beat sheets together. I mean, I would think, or, that's how you get on the same page. My partner and I do everything together. We break the story together. We come up with the beat sheet together. We come up with the outline together. That's how you do it. I mean, you don't want to if they're your partner. I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Bounce ideas of each other. That's how you, or else why have a partner?
Another really early podcast episode we had was Writing with a Partner, where you talk about this process. Mm-hmm. And there are several schools of thought about how to work with a writing partner.
Yeah.
There are tons of resources, and different writers have different things. One person sits at a keyboard, the other doesn't. I think you guys do that way.
Yeah.
Right?
Sievert's been I used to be the one at the keyboard, but for the last couple of years, he's been the one at the keyboard. Although now we both we use Collaborate, so we both can type at the same time, which is really annoying.
That's awesome. So there's a bunch of that, and there are other people who do it, but I think the real juice of what we're saying here, what you're saying, Michael, is you shouldn't be breaking your story separate. That's not co-writing.
Yeah. You got to be on the same page.
Yep. Oof. All right.
I'll tell a quick anecdote. Like one time, Sievert and I were working on a script for, I think it was Tacoma FD, and we were writing the outline together, and we got into a fight over what this one scene was supposed to be. And I wanted one thing, he wanted another thing. And then I said, "What do you think this story is about?" And he told me. And then he goes, "What do you think the story is about?" I said, "I think it's about this." We weren't even clear on what the story was about. So we had to stop, agree on that, and then move forward.
Yeah. That cleared up everything, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Nina McKissack. She's in your course, isn't she?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Nina. I'm so worried about alienating my audience for too long. Is there a theory about this?
Alienating. I wish I knew in what way. You generally, I feel like you want to hold your audience's hand. That's how I feel. There are other filmmakers who may feel differently. And, when I get lost sometimes when I'm watching, I'm like, I'm lost here. I don't know what's going on. And so that's not something that I like to do in my writing. I like to make sure that, especially if you're writing on television, because if you're writing on TV, you go into a movie is one thing. You have their attention. They're a hostage if they're sitting in the movie theater. But on TV show, often people will be on their phone, they're reading a magazine, they're doing everything at the same time as watching a TV show. And so I want to make sure they're with me the whole way, or else they're not going to be engaged.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I wondered about this one too. What does she mean by alienating, right? Because I don't think you ever want to really alienate your audience. I think there's suspense. There's audience superior versus audience inferior, right? Does your audience know more than the character does? The audience know less than the character does. And there's different tactics and tools you can use as a writer to build suspense, and they each have their own purpose. But alienating would be
that's not on my list of things to do.
Yeah. So sorry, Nina, if we had the misunderstanding here, but let us know in the private Facebook group. Putting us in there with a clarification, and I'm sure Michael will hop in and answer that.
Just to be clear, the private Facebook group is just for members of my course. So you have to be a paid member to get into that. But there's a lot of good stuff going on there. These people are very active, and I answer more questions there for them.
We'll jump down because there's literally this question under the course section. Mark Brzezinski, is there a Facebook group we can join to network?
Yes, there is. And once you purchase, you get a link to that, and you should definitely take advantage of it. There's a lot of really smart people trading scripts. They're doing table reads once a week. They're giving each other notes, and it's unlike they got a festival coming up, which I can't believe. And it's unlike there are other Facebook screenwriting groups where people are pretty mean. It's almost like Reddit, screenwriting Reddit, which is the most dirtiest place on earth. But that's not what this is going on. In this group, it's really very professional and supportive. It's a good. I think we were smart to gate that group and say you have to be purchased because it hasn't turned into a cesspool.
I can tell you from the e-learning side of my digital marketing career that when people ask, and we had this conversation with a client a year ago when they were relaunching their online membership course for a specific topic. But anyway, very well renowned company, lots of people. And I said, you need to have a community manager that's in there full time, keeping out the riffraff, because there's spam, there's ugliness, there's all these things. And if you don't have someone doing that, it's just going to get bad. And most of these things are set up by one or two people who just wanted to start a group. And I've had nothing but bad experiences in those groups. Nothing but bad experiences. Unless there is some unifying factor, like an alumni group tends to perform a little bit better, be in an easier place. Because you have
but we don't have that problem with our group.
Nope. In fact, you have people who self-police. I get messages from people who are like, hey, I shared this thing. Did I break a policy of self-promotion?
Yeah.
I was like, you shared something you produced that came out of the course? I don't think that's self-promotion. I think that's celebrating your hard work.
Yeah.
Right. You're not offering to pay to read someone's script. You're donating your time every Tuesday night to run a table group.
Yeah, right.
Table read. You're good.
Yeah, you're good.
Awesome. Tomer K. I've noticed in the Blacklist scripts that there's a trend of making meta commentary about the script itself, referencing page numbers or the reader. What are your thoughts on this? And maybe define what the Blacklist is for people.
Well, yeah, I mean the Blacklist. There's really like the Blacklist started as a site where unproduced professional scripts that were sold were just never produced, and it was like an honor to get on the Blacklist. But now there's something. Now it's something else. There's like two lists, right, Phil?
Yeah, there's that list, but then there's also like you can sign up for the Blacklist and pay a monthly fee to host your script, so people can access it and read it and give you notes. And you can pay like $100 a pop to get notes and reader feedback on your script and get rated. And that's a little bit, I think, more of the commercial side of it.
Isn't that what they're talking about? That's
the Blacklist. There's also fellowships and things. So I'm not, by no means are either of us knocking the Blacklist. It's just a difference in what this is. And I think what they're referencing is the original list that you're talking about.
The original list, they're thinking there's a lot of meta jokes in it and meta references.
I've not read them, but I believe that's what they're saying, because that is the blacklist. I placed on the blacklist.
Right.
Top unproduced scripts.
Oh, so I can't answer it then.
But
Sorry.
from a style perspective, do you think that's an appropriate style of writing?
Well, if they got on the blacklist, on the legit blacklist, by doing this, who am I to say no? I just think it tends to be cheap, breaking the fourth wall or meta. You gotta really be careful. Like, Ryan Reynolds says that in the Deadpool, but it can become a crutch, and it becomes. The problem was when you do it, you're telling the audience this is a movie. And it takes them out of it. You've sucked them into it. And this is how I feel. When I first started, I thought all these meta jokes were great. Isn't that funny? We're self-referential. Isn't that interesting? But now that I've matured as a writer, I feel like you're spending all this time and energy to suck people into a world, to make them suspend disbelief. And now you're going to pop it with a joke. And now you got to put more energy to get them back into it. I don't like it. I don't like it. Others can feel differently, though.
Yeah, and in the Deadpool comics, he would break the fourth wall. So that is not something that he's doing in film. He's living in the character, and I think it's something everyone expects from Deadpool. That he's going to have a commentary with you, and it's Ryan Reynolds. Like he if there's anyone who can do that, it's Ryan Reynolds, right?
Right.
I couldn't do that. I don't know many people who could. Fourth wall, just for people, because I just want to make sure everyone's clear on that. It comes from stage plays specifically, right? Where there are 3 walls, and then there's a line, and that line is 3 walls are the set, and then the 4th wall is the audience. And so they're either facing the audience or they're communicating with each other, but they don't turn to speak to the audience unless it's a narrator or it's someone else having, there's a specific need for that.
Yeah, 4th wall is when you literally acknowledge that there's an audience watching your play, which is kind of odd, but it can be fun.
Some of the first screenwriting courses I ever paid for talked about that. Like, I was supposed to know what it was, and I got so lost. I had to go look it up, and man, that was very confusing. So I want to make sure we define that for people.
Yeah.
Projecting much, Phil?
Yeah.
Cool. PF. Oh, I wanted to ask. I have a follow-up question on this. So there are screenwriting books that are kind of renowned, specifically story books by Robert McKee, more so than screenwriting books, where he says it is cheap for a writer to reference like we see, we hear. And I actually write in that style, and I get a lot of really good feedback on that. Like, we see this happen. That's just a personal choice.
I've never had
a bump on it. You read my scripts. You've never bumped on it. That might be, and to be clear, in the book, he clarifies that was overused in the transition from, I want to say it was like, it might have been silent films to specific, moving into something else. So it was as a crutch people leaned on at a certain point in the 1900s. So maybe we've gotten past that, which is why it doesn't bump. But I just didn't. You answered the question. You don't care.
Yeah.
So that's not breaking the 4th wall. In that.
No. You're just that's a stage direction.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. To me, it's I'm inferring camera movement more than anything.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. PFH. Should I vet my idea before I write it? So I have an idea to pitch, but once it is doable, then I can perfect it. So basically, I had to rewrite this question because it was a bit confusing. Does that make sense? Yeah,
I think what they're asking is, like, this is what I would do. You have an idea for a movie or a TV show or whatever. Put it in a sentence or 2 sentences and then pitch it to a friend. And if you can't explain it succinctly, then you got a problem. So just saying it out loud, even if you don't have a friend, saying it out loud, describing it, is a good way so I know what the story is, because sometimes you don't even know what it is and you can't clarify. So for sure, say it out loud and see if your friend is interested. If that sounds grabby, it might not be.
Yeah, in that 2 sentences, would you say that's separate from a log line, or would you call it?
Yeah, that's basically a log line. But if you want to expand, if you want to make it a paragraph, if you find that's a log line is like 2 sentences, but if you want to make it a paragraph, that's fine too. But don't make it a page. Just make it short and brief.
Yeah, one early script I wrote, the log line was about a small town. It's about a small town pastor who kills people. And it was interesting. See your face, like that's an interesting enough log. Okay. I was like, yeah, I'd be interested in that. And then the questions are, well, like, what's it about? Like, why does he kill people?
Yeah, I would go a little more detailed than that because if you pitch me out, I'd say maybe tell me more.
Correct. And it's really more of an elevator pitch than anything.
Yeah,
right. It's just a way to just slide it in. but the log line would be a full 2 sentences.
Yeah.
Cool. Course related question. Only one other today. Melody. We answer a lot of these questions throughout the webinars. That's why there's not a ton of these. Melody Jones. I have to do major research for my project. Should I take the course first or get my research done, then do the course?
Oh, I think I would say take the course first. That way you know what kind of questions to ask and look for. I'm unfortunately we couldn't answer this for her probably live, but yeah, because you may start asking yourself questions that you don't even need the answers to. So,
yeah, I would absolutely agree. In fact, the script I'm writing right now, I am doing a lot of research on because it has a technical skill set that I am very familiar with, but I don't know the intricacies of. And so by doing my research, I'm looking into that. But I broke the script first from a story perspective, not a plot perspective. I said, what's the story? What do I want to tell? What's going to happen? Like, how are my relationships going to play out? And now it's looking at it thematically to say, how can I utilize this experience they're going through from a technical perspective to elevate that story or to add stressors? Like, how can I use this to get to this part where they get in an argument or whatever? So I absolutely
what's also interesting side note, but I'm rewatching Wolf of Wall Street, and I'm maybe a quarter of the way through, but every freaking scene that I'm watching right now, everyone is interesting. The acting is brilliant, but every scene is written like there's something really interesting going on in each scene. There's nothing lazy about that script. It's like if you watch, you could show me any one scene, I'd be like, ooh, that's good, So think about that when you're writing your script. Is this scene amazing or not? Because that one, it was. Movie, every scene's amazing. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
Here's a freebie for you guys. I love that. All right. Breaking in. You ready to talk about breaking into Hollywood?
Sure.
Cool. There's a curse word in here, so to keep our non-explicit label on the podcast. F the void. Is there a chance for writers that are not from the U.S. to find success in Hollywood, like, say, South American writers that want to make it big?
Yeah, well, there was that guy. Sure. I mean, the writer who did... was he Australian? He was South African. It's the... what was that movie called? District 9,
Yeah. And he did a bunch of stuff. They're all great.
Yeah. And so for sure, I mean, you can make your stuff wherever you are. And to some degree, if you have if you make a TV show in a foreign country other than the US, often it's easier to sell those shows to the US because it's IP that already exists. And for some reason, sometimes studios want that. So Wilfred, for example, I wrote on Wilfred. That was an Australian show. It did really well in Australia, and we adapted it for America here. It's not uncommon at all. So, yeah, don't let that hold you back from creating great stuff.
Yeah, from a purely cinema history perspective, a lot of the best cinematography came out of Mexico when Eisenstein moved there. So there's great stuff. You've got, Inarito. You got all these amazing filmmakers coming out of Central South America and North America. You've got Taika Waititi out of New Zealand. You got
right. I was going to mention him. There's a movie. I'm going to search it right now. Worst. What? Yeah, there's a movie I watched a couple days ago. The Worst Person in the World. It's a Norwegian movie. Loved it. Thought it was so well done. The title was terrible. What's the title? But everything about the movie was great, but except for the title, The Worst Person in the World. Go watch that.
But there's some great films even just come out of like Europe, the UK and Europe, which I think we're going to get. That's the next question is UK. Maybe that one we answered in the thing. But anyway, but it's like Once. That musical is just fantastic, and it's out of the UK. So yeah, I think oftentimes people group like the UK and America as Hollywood, but they are different because you have BAFTA and you have the BBC and the way they do their things, and then you have Hollywood. And the other thing to keep in mind too is with streaming. I mean, I get a lot of recommendations for Spanish films and TV on my Netflix, and they don't know that I speak Spanish.
I think they do.
You think they figured it out?
I think they do, man.
They might
You'd be surprised.
But I get some Korean stuff too.
I get ads in Spanish because I speak Spanish too. I'm like, why are they? How do they know?
It's not zip code related. Maybe it's zip code related. Maybe it's just LA, right? But yeah, anyway, I get a lot of that stuff, and so just because you maybe get something and you sell it to Netflix Ecuador, and then all of a sudden it's being streamed all over the world. You got all of the Spanish channels, and then you make it here. Here's a great example. Squid Games. Squid Games, South Korea, blew up, huge.
Yeah.
Right? Huge. Parasite.
Yeah.
Parasite, South Korea.
But there's a catch. It has to be good.
Better than it has to be great, right?
Yeah, it has to be great.
But that's the rule for everyone in Hollywood too. And there's a
Right.
lot of people here who are not willing to put in the effort to get to that.
Right.
Yeah, and then I guess follow-up question from After the Void. Do you know any writers that are not from the US or any first world country that have made it in Hollywood?
Well, I know I've had Canadian writers on my show before, on my on the podcast. You could ask them how they did it. If you come from a non-English speaking country, you're going to have a more difficult time in the sense that, even if your English is really good, it may not be perfect. Like, unless you've been here a long, long time. And so that's the catch. Like, it's hard for you to write dialogue in a language that it's not your first language. It may
idioms and all that other stuff too, right?
So you do need to have really not just a firm grasp of the language, but you really have to know it. Like, you have to speak as well as a native speaker, but with maybe just a slight accent. That's the only catch.
Yeah, but there are also things like Selena. There's a girl I went to film school with, and she's a writer on Selena, and she's from Mexico, and she's a second. She just got naturalized just a bit ago, but she's a writer on Selena before she was a U.S. citizen. Yeah,
often interesting. Yeah, so if you get on there's demand for people from with diverse backgrounds if the show is about that background. So yeah,
it absolutely was. I think that whole writing staff were Latin American. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Michael Jamin. If you like my videos and you want me to email them to you for free, join my watch list. Every Friday, I send out my top 3 videos. These are for writers, actors, creative types. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. I'm not going to spam you, and it's absolutely free. Just go to michaeljamin.com/watchlist.
Semi-Cole, are film festivals a good route to take for a script you wrote to get looked at?
Well, you're not looking at it; you're shooting it, right? I'm not sure what the question is.
Film festivals often have screenwriting and screenplay contests attached to them.
Oh, interesting.
And I can tell you, having been on staff for many of those indie film festivals, that is what pays. The screenwriting contest is what pays for the cocktail hours and for the other things.
So you're saying it's not really a way to be discovered?
Well, it depends on the film festival, right?
Oh, okay. All right.
So there are film festivals that I think matter. I think there are also, I think what you really want to talk about, we actually did a webinar on a little bit deeper on this, which is available on your website to purchase for like $29. Worth watching. But
which one is that? Which episode was that?
I think it's how to get past industry gatekeepers.
Oh, okay. Okay,
yeah. That's what it was. Yeah, thanks for clarifying. But yeah, I think what you really want to look for are fellowships. So you have the Sundance Film Festival and their fellowships that they offer there. Blacklist has a fellowship. You have the Academy, the Nichols Fellowship. Austin Film Festival comes up in another question here. That's one that's a film festival where they do give screenwriting contests, awards, and there are industry people who attend that. Yeah. So it's a different thing. Tribeca, some of those bigger ones, South by Southwest, if they have those options, maybe go for those. But if you're talking about like the Westboro, whatever film festival, maybe skip it. Save the $40 on Film Freeway.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You heard it from Phil. He knows more about this than I do.
Daniel Celiak. Poor guy. If someone is still in high school or early in college, what can they do to get closer to the industry?
Stay where you are and just write and make your own stuff. When as a kid, I shot my own stuff on a Super 8 camera. Now you can shoot on your phone. I didn't have sound back then. Just keep working on your craft and read anything and get inspired by our art. Draw upon it. Don't look for a job right now. I mean, if you want to look for a job as an intern or PA or something, that's fine. But don't start thinking about starting your screenwriting career. Just start working on becoming a good writer. That's the first step.
Yeah, and I was going to suggest PA, intern, volunteer.
Yeah.
I started volunteering at the Sundance Film Festival because that's all I could do, and it was because I was in the recession of 2008-9, and I just had to work, and I had to work 2 jobs, and so I would volunteer at the Sundance Film Festival, and I put in those hours for 4 years, and then that's how I got my first real break through Sundance to do some stuff aside from the work I was doing and How I Met You, who we've talked about previously. Great. BV. Michael mentions moving to Hollywood if you're serious. What about those in the UK, for example, who physically cannot get a visa to move there?
Right. Well, there is an industry in the UK. I mean, they do make great movies and great TV shows there. So I don't know what cities. If it's London, I don't know where the centers are. But stay where you are and become great in your country, and then we'll send a visa your way.
When we want that. There's like a specific visa that gets you over. It's like you're an expert in your field, and America wants to profit off of you by taking taxes.
Yeah, the minute America sees dollar signs on you instead of just pound signs,
you get that special visa.
Yeah.
Great. BV, I just got your pound sign joke, by the way. That was clever.
Thank you.
BV. No, I did that one. Lauren Gold, any specific tips for fiction novel writers who want to transition to screenwriting?
Yeah. Write a best-selling book, and it'll be so easy. Hollywood will come after you with buying the rights. But if you have a book that's not selling, it doesn't have the book. Honestly, the book doesn't even have to be good. It just has to be a bestseller, because then it comes with a built-in market, And so we don't, is 50 Shades of Grey high literature? I'm not sure. But I know a lot of people read it and loved it, and so they turned it into a movie. So it's just about marketing. So these bestsellers have a built-in marketplace. And look at a lot of these movies that are being made. They're adapted from movies. They're just hit books. They're hit books.
And it can also be other things like The Martian, right? It was originally a blog post, a series of blog posts that we put on his website.
Right. Was it a blog? I know it was a self-published book. I didn't know it started from blog posts.
I believe it was a blog. He would post blog posts. He would publish basically a new chapter as a blog post.
Oh, okay.
And then he would, spin off from there.
So there's a guy who's not waiting who wasn't asking for permission. He wasn't waiting to be discovered. He did it anyway. He built the mountain himself.
At Twilight, those were stories that she would tell her sister, and she wrote that book, self-published, and blew up. Yeah. Cultural phenomenon.
Twilight was self-published. Did not know that.
My understanding is that, I believe it was, and someone else correct me if we're wrong. They'll definitely scream at me because it's such a big hit. That being said, I believe 50 Shades of Grey is fan fiction of Twilight. That's at least what I've heard.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm just offended like half your audience who love those two franchises.
That's okay.
You're welcome, everybody.
Oh.
Rob Asara, I produced my own plays, staged comedy shows, and web series for a while.
Great.
Now as a way to break in. Is this a valid way of doing it? Does the industry care about any of this?
Yes, of course. But the problem is you're doing all these great things, but maybe you're putting the work in, which is great, but maybe it's not good enough yet. It's okay. Keep doing it until you get good. Or maybe it's great, but it hasn't found an audience yet. So it does need to have an audience. Like the minute you have your web series gets discovered by a couple million people, Hollywood will find you, because you are bringing more to the table than just your desire to cash a check. You are bringing an audience. But if you don't have that yet, then one or two things are happening. One is, maybe your writing isn't good enough yet, or your show is not good enough yet. Yet means you can, right? Keep working on yourself. Or maybe just they haven't found you yet. And if that's the case, you still have to keep putting it out there just until you're found, until your audience finds you. Either way, you have to keep doing it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Andrew Spitzer, would you agree that ultimately you're selling yourself and your skills rather than a product?
You got to bring more to the table, like I said, than just a script. And so what am I doing on here? I'm selling myself, I suppose. I have a following on social media. It helps me get more opportunities. And so I still have a body of work, and people know that I'm a good writer. But yeah, I come with this other end, I bring in more to the table than just me.
Yeah.
I took this. Sorry.
Yeah, and I took this too. No, it's your podcast, man. I'm sorry I stepped on your toes.
No.
Mr. Jamin.
Yes.
I did it again right there. See?
No.
I was gonna say I took this as I think it's a bit of both, and I think the order is a little bit different. From my perspective of this is you have a product. That product is so valuable to someone that they want to buy it because you were able to craft that product. And because of that, now your skill sets are valuable and you are now selling your ability to continue to craft products like that one.
Yeah.
So you have to have a sample that is, you've already checked the box. You can make these people money. If you can't do that, there is no evidence of your ability and your skill set. So there's nothing to sell.
Okay.
But I think it goes for your script. I think it goes for getting an agent. I think it goes for getting a manager. I think it goes for opening doors to meet people. You have to have something that is valuable to them, and it might be audience, like you were just talking about.
Yeah.
That might be enough.
Right.
You might be your IP from the story you wrote and self-published.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll be approached by an actor, a big actor, who has a terrible idea for a show or whatever. Okay, because you're bringing, you're going to be in it, and so you're a good actor. So that's bringing a lot to the table, their presence.
Yeah. Sidebar here. Is there truth in the statement that there are certain actors who are not able to open a movie, who are not able to, that they come and they might have a name you'd recognize and they might have some idea of a following, but they're not necessarily someone a studio would bank on?
For sure. But I can speak more to this from the TV side, but for sure, I know even John Travolta, Quentin Tarantino wanted to cast Travolta in Pulp Fiction, and I think there was some pushback from the studios because he was a has-been. He was a washout, even though super talented guy. Yeah. And Tarantino saw him and thought, dude, this guy is still a huge star. He can't walk down the street without people yelling Vinnie Barbarino. People love him. And so he fought for him, even though the studio didn't believe he could open a movie. And he did open a movie. And then
did he ever?
And did he? And then think of all the other opportunities that came because of that. But sure, the studios, at the end of the day, they're not so concerned with, is this actor a good actor? They want to know, can this actor put asses in seats? Will they sell tickets? And that's why some actors who are not particularly good actors or great actors, but they can put asses in seats. That's what counts.
Yep. Awesome. That's what I thought. I just wanted to get some confirmation there. This is a Phil Hudson Q&A hour, everybody. I get to ask my questions too. Awesome. Lepe TV, or Leapy TV, whatever. If a short film is being optioned to pitch as a series, is it better to keep the short hidden while it's being shopped around, or is it okay to post it online?
Well, I mean,
it's a bit of a 1%er for you, right? This is like a one-off question.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot. It's if you put your short on YouTube or whatever and it gets 1 million views, it's a lot easier to sell.
Yeah. What I got from this question is I made a short. Somebody has optioned that short. Mm-hmm. Is it a mistake to now put that on YouTube? Does that advice still apply there?
You'd have to talk to the person who optioned it because now it's theirs.
Yep.
They have the rights. You got to talk to them.
Yep.
So
cool. Len Lawson, should I ask a potential producer to sign an NDA before reading my script?
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either.
But it depends who, I've never done that, but also don't show it to the producer who's, got a handlebar mustache. Who are you showing it to? Make sure, what have they done? Look them up on IMDb. Are they legit, or are they just someone who's claiming to be a producer? In which case, you better build a rapport with them. You better know whether you can trust this person or not. But I wouldn't. I would never ask. And I've showed my scripts to tons of people. I don't ask for an NDA. So.
Yeah. I wouldn't either. It's just friction. I think about this in terms of friction. And when we talk about adopting habits or influencing people to take action, there's this whole nuance of digital marketing called conversion rate optimization, which is how do I get more people to take the action I want them to on my website, whether it's the headline or it's the colors or it's pattern interrupts or if it's offers or bullet points, all that stuff. And to me, you want to reduce friction. How do I remove obstacles? And in sales, the best way to overcome an objection is to kill the objection before it becomes one. Yeah. And that's a massive objection.
Yeah, like if you were to, I'm not a producer, I'm not an agent, I don't want to read anybody's script. I'd say right up front, I'm not. But if someone were to ask me for the favor, they say, hey, will you read my script? And then for some reason, I was feeling magnanimous that day as opposed to every other day of the year, then I would say, all right, I'll read your script. And then they ask me to sign an NDA. I'd be like, forget it, the deal's
we're
off.
done. Yeah,
we're done.
Yeah, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I think it also speaks to the psychology of people who are breaking in, who are so concerned someone's going to steal their idea. And that's one of the most prominent questions we get.
Yeah.
This is that question asked a different way. Because
everyone is so convinced that they have an idea that's worth stealing. That's the funny part.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks their script is gold, and most of them are not. So
by most, we mean a lot of them.
Yeah.
Like a 99.99. But and that's a hard thing for me to admit too, guys. I thought I was going to win an Oscar with my first script. I thought I was that prodigy. I've talked about prodigy syndrome before on the podcast. I thought that was me, and it's not. And letting go of that's been so freeing for my creativity and my enjoyment of the process. So just look at it this way. Like, if you think this is all you got, that's a problem.
Right.
And that's why you're freaking out.
Right.
My opinion is still my idea. Awesome. Go for it. Why? Because that validates the fact that I got something. And I got a lot more of that.
Right.
But also, please don't steal my stuff.
Yeah, don't steal stuff. That's for me to do.
Yeah. Jamin's everything Jamin writes, I actually write. I'm his ghostwriter.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been ghostwriting for him for 26 years.
Yep.
I submitted a pilot to the Austin Film Festival. Is this a good move? Is it bad timing with the strike? I submitted before I knew there was going to be a strike.
There's no bad timing. I mean, you're not going to take, if you become a hit, if you win some prize, great. When the strike is over, you can capitalize on it. I don't think there's bad timing. So.
No, I think there's specific advice on this from the WGA that I've seen. Yeah. And it basically says that if you win, anything that was done before the strike is whatever, but it's what you do with that after. So let's say that you submitted to a strike that was funded by a studio in the AMTP. You're going to, and then you win, and part of that prize is to have a meeting with a producer. That is in breach. Yeah. Because that is happening after the fact. Even having a meeting with them is a breach. It's crossing a picket line.
So just defer. Say, hey, I thank you. I'm so excited. I can't wait to have this meeting with you in a month or two when the strike is over.
You don't want to take that meeting to ruin your potential for a career because you can't get in the WGA. And when the strike's over, they can only hire people who are in the WGA, and they will not hire you because
they won't give a crap about you. I mean, like if you think you're going to build a friendship with them, they're going to be gone.
Nope, they're going to make their payday and move on. Yeah. And then when the Writers Guild qualified writers can come back, they will get their high quality scripts back from the people who write them.
Yeah.
And you'll be sitting there with just wasted opportunity. With the Austin Film Festival, however, I believe it is technically, and I could be wrong, but I believe it's and I did submit this year, by the way, to everybody. I'm in the same situation. I'm not concerned. If I win, awesome. I'm not going to take, I'm not planning on winning. It's just a benchmark, a litmus test for me to say, did I qualify? Like, am I good enough? Where am I at in what I consider to be a respected film festival?
Yeah.
And you take what you get out of it, you accept the accolades, and then you move on, and just avoid anything that crosses the picket line. Don't take this as an opportunity to scab.
Yeah.
Cool. 4 questions, Michael. You think we can do it?
Let's blow through them. Let's do it.
Shauna Ibarra. You're miscellaneous. How do you find mentors or people who can give you feedback?
You got to earn it. You got to earn it. You got to get a job or an internship or something at a studio, at a production company, work your butt off. And then after 6 months, they say, hey, can I show you my script? But it's not like mentors are just lining up to help you, or maybe they are, like maybe they're retired people. I don't know, but, it's all, that's the connections part. That's the work you have to do. This is your job, is to make connections, and it's to give first. And that's what I would do.
I was given advice from a production supervisor and a producer that at a certain point you get an ask and you should take your ask.
Yes, you get an ask. You have to earn that ask first. Right.
Yeah. And there are many people I've personally worked with in Hollywood where I probably have that ask and I'm not taking that ask because I don't want to waste their time.
You're saving it.
Yep. For when it's time.
Yeah.
Erica Little. Since screenwriting is not audience facing like acting, is it an ageist industry since it is generally Hollywood based?
You know, ageism is the last accepted ism in Hollywood. That said, there are plenty of examples of people who are older who are still breaking in. So it's not like it's impossible, but they're still favoring the youth. But it's not impossible, especially if you do it yourself. Why do I'm always yelling at you, do it yourself. So no one can stop you. As you're older, you have wisdom, you have more life experiences to draw upon, and you might have a couple of bucks in your pocket so you can invest in yourself.
Yeah, good point. Aaron Kayumi, what is your advice on how to make writing and screenwriting a less lonely pursuit, especially when writing is a hobby? How do I meet and learn from others or get feedback, etc.?
Well, that's kind of one of the pluses of our course that Phil and I have, is that there's a private Facebook group just for students, and it's a community. They trade scripts, they have table reads, they have a contest coming up. That's the community. That's their graduating class. That's their cohort. That's one way to do it.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Sorry,
No, that's it. It's like I said. I don't remember if we mentioned this or the last podcast, but it's a really good group of people where it's not.
Yeah, it was the top of this one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I've already mentioned it. So yeah, it's really high quality people in this group.
Yeah, solid feedback, and even playing field too. They're telling you things based off of what matters, not things that they've heard or read in a book.
Yeah,
it's like this is how a writer's room is going to give you notes.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a document. Here's a workbook Michael prepared with the types of notes that matter. That's the feedback you get.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question. Scott Pekulski wants to know, Michael, would you consider your book art or craft?
Oh, good question. So when I'm writing for TV, I consider that craft. I consider it, I know it is. I'm getting notes, I'm getting feedback. It's very collaborative. I think art at its core, and this is open for debate, okay, but I think art at its core is not about compromising. And when you work with a bunch of people, when you're collaborating, you are going to compromise. Compromises have to be made. And so it's everyone's work, and that's why I feel like it's craft. But I was thinking about this last night, and then I was like, well, what about Michelangelo? Sistine Chapel. He took notes on the Sistine Chapel. Like he was working for the Pope. He had to put some angels in there that he didn't want to put in. He had to compromise his vision. But you certainly wouldn't say the Sistine Chapel is not art. It certainly is. So I'm a little confused as to what my definition is. Even I'm so in other words I'm contradicting myself. I do think art is about taking something inside of you and expressing it in a way that helps you understand yourself and helps you understand the world around you. And in that way, people can see it or watch it and enjoy it and help them understand themselves. I think there's that greater good. I don't think craft necessarily does that. I think craft can sometimes be, the studio will give me a note and I'll say, okay, I can do that. That's what you want. I can do that. I don't think it's necessarily playing for the greater good. It's what they want and they're paying me. I also don't think design is necessarily art. Design is sometimes can be about selling something. Mm-hmm. So the design of the Apple boxes that they sell, the phones, and really beautiful, well done. But the design has an intention, and that is to sell this image of Apple, of this blank slate, this pure white, open for possibility, creative blank slate. So is that art? No, I don't think so. I think it's design. I also think so. There's art, craft, and design, but you can have your own feelings, and this debate has been raging for centuries.
Yeah, and I apologize. You might have answered this. For you, your book, is it art or is it craft?
For me, the intention was only art. I was drawing upon my craft to make art, whereas I don't usually draw upon my craft to make art. I usually do it to make a TV show. And so the book is called A Paper Orchestra. And when I wrote it, I was very, very, I was struggling with this because I've read similar books that were written by television writers. And to me, they felt like I could tell they were written by sitcom writers. That's not to say that it was goofy. It just felt like it wasn't deep enough. And it felt like they had taken the network note. Often we get notes from the network where the network's like, can you round the edges off? And when you're writing on a network TV show, we'll often anticipate these notes and we'll do the notes in advance. But for this book, I was very insecure about it. I was kept on arguing with my wife. Does this feel like it was written by a sitcom writer? And sometimes she'd say, yeah. And sometimes she'd say, no, this is. And so I was always pushing myself. I wanted to be seen as an author, not as a sitcom writer who wrote a book that feels like a sitcom. And so whether or not I achieved that, that's up for the individual to decide. But that was my intention. Yeah. And I think intention's important. I think it counts for something. Yeah,
absolutely. And it sounds to me like you took the craft that you've been working on for years and years and utilize it as a litmus test for your art.
Yeah. And we'll, if anyone wants to sign up when it drops or when I start touring, it's michaeljamin.com/upcoming. But there, it's interesting because when people have enjoyed it and performed it, I mean, as I performed or when they've read,
it's fantastic. It is.
Thank you. It's very visual. So I think when I write these scenes, I think, oh, what is it? What are we watching in our mind's eye as this scene goes? So there's that. I do write as if I'm a screenwriter. I don't know if I'll ever be able to get rid of that. And I do write, it's not high literature. I understand that. I don't know if I ever could write high literature, and I don't think it was never my intention.
I think it just speaks to the value of art. And you said it's to the greater good, and I think sometimes the greater good is, what do I want to write? What is best for my soul?
Yes.
That's the intention, and that is the greater good. And that's the difference between, cannon fodder is the term that comes to mind. I don't know that's appropriate, but it's just the BS that can be mass produced, the AI generated content that can be mass produced, versus the singular thing that only Michael Jamin could do because it spoke to his soul and came out of him based off of what he needed to express at this moment of what was going on in his life, reflecting on all of the experience he's had.
Right. And that's interesting because that's how I protect myself from AI, because people say, what are you doing about AI? AI cannot write my stories because it hasn't lived my life. And these are very personal stories. So it can't. It just can't. AI might be able to do other things, but it can't do what I'm doing. So
yeah. Yep. Oh, beautiful stuff, man. I love when we end on these great little notes like that, because I think it's incredibly valuable to people who are struggling with this. And I know a lot of writers think they're artists and they want to be artists. And you are when you're doing something pure and with the right intention, regardless of the quality that you can do now compared to everybody else. It's the best you can do with what you have right now. That is art.
And that's the advantage that an amateur or non-professional screenwriter or writer has over what we do. I'm a professional writer. It means I get paid. It means people are paying me to put out stuff that maybe I don't necessarily want to do, but I'm taking the money, so I have to do it. But when you're writing for yourself as an amateur, or you get to write whatever you want, and you don't have to compromise, and you don't have to worry about the money because you already have a job on the side. And so what you're doing, not you, but what those people are doing is more pure in that sense. You are writing because you just want to write. And it's closer. It probably has a closer chance of being art than what I do when I take the paycheck.
But it's probably also the thing that is going to get you into the machine to become the professional paid writer.
Yes.
Who does the craft.
If you don't, right. If you stop thinking about, can I sell this, and start thinking about, how beautiful is this thing I'm making? And we were just talking a minute ago about Wolf of Wall Street, how I'm only a quarter way through, but every scene is so interesting. The writing is so great in every scene. Not lazy. Nothing lazy about it, man.
Yeah. It kind of leads to the end of the podcast. And so before we jump the gun, what do we say? Keep writing.
Keep writing.
Too. Yeah.
Phil, another great talk. Yeah. All right, everyone, keep watching. We have great stuff for you on the website. We always like to plug that. If you go to michaeljamin.com, what you can get is a free lesson on how to write. Mm-hmm. You can get on my newsletter, which I'll send you the 3 tips that I think you need to watch every week, 3 lessons for you to pick up, free. Also on my website, you can sign up for my book for when it drops, A Paper Orchestra. You can sign up for my webinar, which we do every 3 weeks. You could sign up for my screenwriting course. That's going to cost you. You can get a free writing sample that I've written. All this stuff, go get it. It's all there at michaeljamin.com.
And there's other valuable things you have on there too. Like you can get the webinar rebroadcast. Like this was the pep talk every screenwriter needs here. You can go get that. There's also the VIP Q&A. So these are the questions we couldn't answer in the main one. There's a VIP Q&A. You can go sign up at michaeljamin.com/VIP for the next event and just have a chance on Zoom in a small group to ask questions directly to you.
Yeah.
And
let me clarify. So the webinars, because I'm glad you brought that up. So the webinars are free. If you attend live, they're free. If you miss it, we send you a free replay for 24 hours. But if you want to catch the old ones, because you're like, hey, those are really good, those are available on my site for a small fee. So,
but they're lifetime access. You buy it once. It doesn't have a ticking clock. It's like, it's yours. You have access. It's in there with the course. If you buy the course, you get access to all of them.
Yeah.
And the webinar, when you attend, you give away a free access to the course. So somebody will win that. And a pretty nice discount as well.
Yes. All right, Philly, we did it. Thank you, everyone. Until next week, as Phil likes to say, keep writing.
This has been an episode of Screenwriters Need to Hear This with Michael Jamin and Phil Hudson. If you're interested in learning more about writing, make sure you register for Michael's monthly webinar at michaeljamin.com/webinar. If you found this podcast helpful, consider sharing it with a friend and leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. For free screenwriting tips, follow Michael Jamin on social media at Michael Jamin Writer. You can follow Phil Hudson on social media at Phil A. Hudson. This podcast was produced by Phil Hudson. It was edited by Dallas Green. Music by Ken Joseph. Until next time, keep writing.